was measured now by the number of votes he wielded. A man with only one vote was conspicuously respectful to his neighbor who possessed three, and if he was a man above the commonplace, he was as conspicuously energetic in his determination to acquire three for himself. This spirit of emulation invaded all ranks. Votes based upon capital were commonly called mortal votes, because they could be lost. Those based upon learning were called immortal, because they were permanent, and because of their customarily imperishable character they were naturally more valued than the other sort. I say customarily for the reason that these votes were not absolutely imperishable, since insanity could suspend them. Under this system, gambling and speculation almost ceased in the Republic. A man honored as the possessor of great voting power could not afford to risk the loss of it upon a doubtful chance. It was curious to observe the manners and customs which the enlargement plan produced. Walking the street with a friend one day, he delivered a careless bow to a passer-by, and then remarked that that person possessed only one vote and would probably never earn another. He was more respectful to the next acquaintance he met. He explained that this salute was a 4-vote bow. I tried to average the importance of the people he accosted after that by the nature of his bows, but my success was only partial, because of the somewhat greater homage paid to the immortals than to the mortals. My friend explained. He said there was no law to regulate this thing except that most powerful of all laws, custom. Custom had created these varying bows, and in time they had become easy and natural. At this moment he delivered himself of a very profound salute, and then said, "Now there's a man who began life as a shoemaker's apprentice, and without education. Now he swings 22 mortal votes and 2 immortal ones. He expects to pass a high school examination this year and climb a couple of votes higher among the immortals. Mighty valuable citizen." By and by my friend met a venerable personage, and not only made him a most elaborate bow, but also took off his hat. I took off mine, too, with a mysterious awe. I was beginning to be infected. "What grandee is that?" "That is our most illustrious astronomer. He hasn't any money, but is fearfully learned. 9 immortals is his political weight. He would swing 150 votes if our system were perfect." "Is there any altitude of mere moneyed grandeur that you take off your hat to?" "No. 9 immortal votes is the only power we uncover for, that is, in civil life. Very great officials receive that mark of homage, of course." It was common to hear people admiringly mention men who had begun life on the lower levels and in time achieved great voting power. It was also common to hear youths planning a future of ever so many votes for themselves. I heard shrewd mammas speak of certain young men as good catches because they possessed such and such a number of votes. I knew of more than one case where an heiress was married to a youngster who had but one vote, the argument being that he was gifted with such excellent parts that in time he would acquire a good voting strength, and perhaps in the long run be able to outvote his wife, if he had luck. Competitive examinations were the rule, and in all official grades. I remarked that the questions asked the candidates were wild, intricate, and often required a sort of knowledge not needed in the office sought. "Can a fool or an ignoramus answer them?" asked the person I was talking with. "Certainly not." "Well, you will not find any fools or ignoramuses among our officials." I felt rather cornered, but made shift to say, "But these questions cover a good deal more ground than is necessary." "No matter. If candidates can answer these, it is tolerably fair evidence that they can answer nearly any other question you choose to ask them." There were some things in Gondour which one could not shut his eyes to. One was that ignorance and incompetence had no place in the government. Brains and property managed the state. A candidate for office must have marked ability, education, and high character, or he stood no sort of chance of election. If a hod carrier